Yo, welcome to the Red Road East. I'm your host, Fierce Truth Seeker, and I'm offering you virtual sage and cedar to cleanse and consecrate this virtual space. So you have virtual sage and virtual cedar going to you for smudging. All right, so sorry for the delay. Had excessive noise going on in the back, outside, should I say. It's not my noise, but it makes it very difficult to do these presentations without a lot of feedback. Okay? And that's why I'm having the music in the background to kind of drown that other sound out, and so that they don't take my video down for copyright infringement like they've done in the past, or make it so that I can't monetize in the future. So before we get started, I'm going to leave a Cash App where you can leave donations if you so choose. And we'll get started. I'm waiting for a couple more people to come in, and we will get started. So I'll leave you with some music as we wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, we got two watching. All right. We're not going to wait too much longer. All right, so we'll get started without any further delay. I'm not going to wait any longer. Okay, so we are today talking about reincarnation. Okay, and the title is of this sermon is Reincarnation and Karma, Evidence of Cause, Effect, and the Spirit's Journey Through the Cycle of Life. Okay, so reincarnation, what is reincarnation? And again, this is Sacred Sun days. Okay, for those who have been for these Sun Day sermons in the past, I broke down how the 7 days are related to the planets. Okay, so today is Sun Day, the sun. Okay, yesterday was Saturday, which is Saturn's day. Okay, that's why they name these days as they do. Monday is Moon Day. Okay, when you study your history of the days of the so called week, you will see that they named these days after the planets. And when you look at the names in Latin, Spanish, and French, and the different Romance languages, the various Romance languages, Italian, and all of that, you will see even more clearly that these days were named after the planets. Okay, and so is a whole bunch of other everyday things that go on in your life and you don't even realize it. Okay, so what is reincarnation? Reincarnation is the belief in the transmigration of the human soul entity at death. Okay, it's the belief in the transmigration of a human soul to another entity at death. Okay, which is taught in some Eastern religions like Hinduism. Okay, and it's not only taught. Some people believe that that's it's only in Hinduism, but it's not. Okay, because if reincarnation is a true phenomenon, then it transcends just one culture. Okay, so in science they say energy never dissipates, it only changes its form. Okay, and hence the scripture at Ecclesiastics, or in Ecclesiastics 12:7, okay, that says, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Okay, so reincarnation among the American Indian, okay, I'm going to read to you an excerpt from a book called Ghosts, Spirits, and the Afterlife in Native American Folklore and Religion. Okay. And again, I know I only have one person watching right now, and that's okay. Because again, if you're going to call yourself Aborigine or whatever, this, that, and the other, and you don't know anything about the culture, the folklore, or anything other than you just calling yourself Aborigine, then you're just playing games with yourself. Okay. So, anyway, this book is written by Gary R. Varner. Okay. And it's entitled Ghosts, Spirits, and the Afterlife in Native American Folklore and Religion. Okay. And it says, many cultures around the world believe or have believed in reincarnation, the return of the soul to the world to be reborn. What is the basis for beliefs in reincarnation? Okay. According to Antonia Mills, A belief in reincarnation fits into the basic shamanic belief that typifies hunting and gathering peoples wherever and whenever they are found. And it was probably part of the most ancient human culture. Belief in reincarnation is still prevalent in many parts of the world today, however, and not just in hunter gatherer societies. In some Native American cultures, this belief was modified in that only certain people were believed to be reborn, normally the disabled or deformed, who had not been able to live a normal life previously. The Yuman tribes not only believed that the deformed would be reborn, but also twins. They were believed to come from a village of their own, an adjunct of the village, and I'm sorry, an adjunct of the village of the dead, lying to the northwest, wrote Spire. Some of the deformed there were without arms, others without noses or mouths. Some had an eye in the middle of the forehead. Reportedly, twins and the deformed were born on earth as visitors. These individuals, after death, did not journey on to the land of the dead, but returned to their village until they were reborn again. Some Canadian Indians believed that both animals and humans are reincarnated. The physical features of a newborn child are always referred to those of some dead forebear, noted Werner Muller. Every child is thus a reincarnation. Generally speaking, the Plains Indians did not have a definite idea of a final afterworld. That is because they believe that reincarnation occurs to allow the soul to be finished. According to Saint Pierre, if a soul does not become complete, dies too soon, or fails to successfully traverse a part of the path of life, then it will be sent back to live on this earth again until it completes the journey in a good way. Few in depth studies have been conducted by anthropologists concerning Native American beliefs in reincarnation. One tribal study by Antonia Mills is that of the Gitsan of the British Columbia coast. According to Mills, the Gitshan believe that one soul can be reincarnated simultaneously as multiple people. One such individual reportedly has been reincarnated in 7 different bodies since 1987. According to the Gitsan, all of these incarnations have been within the bodies of her own descendants. New England tribes, especially the Algonquian, believed that reincarnation was one form of afterlife that was generally available. Like the Narragansetts, the Huron also believed that the individual was composed of at least 2 souls and possibly as many as 5. One stayed near the corpse until a ceremony called the Feast of the Dead was performed. The feast resulted in the soul being set free to be reborn. The other soul went on its way to a village of the dead, where the life continued much as it had prior to the individual's death. Children younger than 1 month of age were buried along a well used pathway so that their soul could re enter the womb of a woman who passed by to be reborn. According to anthropologist Alexander von Gernot, some aspect of the infant's underdeveloped soul configuration was deemed recyclable, and that the Huron attempted to control the fate of this aspect through a strategic placement of the corpse. Among some Native American groups, such as the Northern Athapascan Diné, the soul is regarded as a dual entity. The soul is believed to remain in the afterworld and can be prayed to, and at the same time exists in the human form of the reincarnated individual, known also as those made again. In some instances, reincarnation occurs as in human to animal form. This is not the common form, however, with 4 times more human to human transmigrations reported than human to animal forms. Animal incarnations were commonly believed to occur among the Quak, among the Kwakutu, Zuni, and Mojave. The Zuni and Mojave believed that a human spirit was incarnated 4 times in a series of animal and insect births. At each incarnation, the spirit became more powerful. Such animal insect transformations were said to be temporary, with human incarnations remaining part of the cycle. Some Native American cultures believed that animal transformations were reserved only for bad people. The Yurok, according to 19th century ethnologist Stephen Powers, fully believed in the transmigration of souls, that they return to Earth as birds, squirrels, rabbits, or other feeble animals liable to be harried and devoured. It is more especially the wicked who are subjected to this misfortune as a punishment. The Wintun of Northern California, according to Powers, believed that the souls of the wicked return into the grizzly bear, for that for that is the most evil and odious animal they can conceive of. Hence they will not partake of the flesh of a grizzly, lest they should absorb some wicked soul. For the most part, however, reincarnation was viewed as a desirable form of soul continuity, be it in animal or human form. Okay. And I know that some people have dropped off watching the live. Okay. I know a lot of the Christians are going to mess up on this one. I know a lot of the Muslims are going to mess up on this one. And probably some of you Hebrew Israelites too. Okay. However, like I said before, I tell the truth. So now, what about? So since some of y'all are dropping off, I'm going to, since y'all are Judeo-Christian, I can give you all some scripture Okay, because this is not something that I'm talking that's not in the scriptures. Okay, this is something that is for sure in the scriptures. Okay, so you find reincarnation as a common belief at the time of the Christ called Jesus. Okay, in John 8:56 to 58, Jesus said to the Jews, "Your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad." Then the Jews said unto him, "Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham?" Jesus said unto them, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am." Okay, so that's one scriptural reference. Okay, another scriptural reference is John 9:1, which makes it absolutely clear. When the disciples and Jesus pass a blind man on the side of the road, the disciples then asked Jesus if it was this blind man or his parents who sinned to make him be born blind. Okay, so the fact that they asked the question proves that they believed that a person can come back and be born again. Okay, because the nature of that question, okay, of how can a man come into this world blind because of a sin if he had not lived a previous life to do the sinning? Okay, so there's other, I mean, that's just one out of many. There's a whole lot of other scripture in Matthew 11:14. Okay, Jesus tells the multitude of John the Baptist, and he says, "If you are willing to accept it, he," meaning John, "is Elijah who is to come." Jesus also states in the Gospel of Mark, "But I tell you that Elijah has come, and they did to him whatever they pleased, as it is written of him." Okay, the phrase "as it is written of him," which is speaking of Elijah, makes the whole point pretty clear. Okay, because Jesus was trying to convey that John the Baptist was of the same spirit of Elijah. Okay, so now if you want to deal with a scientific perspective, let's get into some science. Okay, so this phenomenon of reincarnation is actually being studied in science, believe it or not. Okay, and they're taking it very seriously. Okay, so for those who are just joining, we are, this is the spirit sun days. Okay, on sun days, we talk about metaphysics and the spiritual aspect of the culture. Okay, the spiritual aspect of the culture. You understand? And you can't call yourself Aboriginal or indigenous or whatever and not deal with spiritual matters. Okay, again, you're just playing games with yourself. All right. So, anyway, like I said before, the scientific world is taking this reincarnation very seriously. Okay. And in the University of Virginia, the psychiatry the psychiatry department is studying reincarnation, and the late Dr. Ian Stevenson studied the stories of children claiming to have past life experiences. Okay, and they went all around the world collecting evidence. Okay, and they have about 2,500 documented cases. Okay, and this is real study. This is not a group of new agers who have a belief, a spiritual belief in reincarnation. No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is actual These are actual scientists who are seriously studying this phenomenon. Okay, and like I said, they have 2,500 cases, documented cases of facts, proof, and evidence. Okay. One case in particular, okay, is the case of a 2-year-old child. Okay. Now, this 2-year-old child had all kind of memories of a past life. Okay. And this child was born in the late 90s. Okay, and the child began having terrors, nightmares, and the child had graphic details when she would have these nightmares, graphic details of a man dying in a fighter plane. Okay, and it happened over a 4-month span of time. Okay, waking in the middle of the night, crying and screaming of an airplane crash. Okay, an airplane that was on fire, and she was saying stuff in her sleep like, air, airplane crashed, on fire. The little man can't get out." Okay, and she even repeated the name of the little man. Okay, or should I say, he even repeated the name of the little man. Okay, now mind you, this child, his name was James. Okay, and the man in the little man in the child's reoccurring dream was named James as well. Okay, and talked about the friend of James. Okay, and that friend's name was Jack Larson. Okay, and that particular Jack Larson was not a friend of the parents of the child. Okay, and not anyone that was in the child's life either, or the parents' lives. Okay, so how did the child just come up with that name? Okay, we're talking about a 2-year-old child, mind you. Okay, now this particular child said that he was shot down in Japan. Okay, and as the child got a little bit older, the child started drawing pictures. Okay, creating drawings, and this child started referring to the person named James as James number 3. Okay, and James number 3 was the one who died. Okay. And the parents started doing some research and they found out that there was a James Houston Jr., okay, who had died in a plane under the same circumstances as the child's dream. Okay. There was a person named James Houston Jr., okay, because the toddler had detailed a lot of information, okay, that gave them enough to go on to be able to research. And they found out about a James Houston Jr., who was a person who died in a plane crash, okay, in Japan. And they even made a Netflix series about this particular occurrence, okay. And there's a book called Reincarnation and Biology by Dr. Ian Stevenson. Okay. And again, this is a doctor who is well respected. This is not a new ager who believes in reincarnation. Okay. And the psychiatry department of the University of Virginia is continuing the works of this late doctor, okay? And they have a team of trained scientists who they follow a scientific method to analyze the children in each of these cases, okay? And they know how to, these are trained, credible psychologists, okay? They're psychological professionals, okay? And they're trained to detect things like children who had been influenced by television or whose parents are feeding them things to repeat, okay? They know how to detect those things, okay? So now in this book, Reincarnation and Biology, um, they are getting this down to such a science where they can look at how birthmarks and birth defects are actually entry points of things like bullet wounds and other injuries that correspond to past life cases. That's how scientific they're getting with this study. Okay, and they've actually found certain cases where these children have talked about how they died and they got shot in the neck, and they actually have looked and found the people that these children, now mind you, I'm talking about little children, had claimed to be, and they've looked at where certain injuries occurred and they correspond to birth defects and birthmarks on these children, okay? And they have even solved unsolved crimes, okay? They've even resolved crimes that have gone unsolved by details from certain people who have had past life experiences, okay, who are geographically nowhere near certain occurrences, okay, and have no way of knowing details of certain crimes that took place, okay. That's just how deeply they're studying this particular phenomenon now, okay. And there are plenty even popular people, celebrities, who have stories, such as like Sylvester Stallone and many others, Steven Seagal, and many others who have these type of past life stories, reincarnation stories. Okay. So, and I know people in my personal circle of friends and family who have past life experiences, okay, and who can talk about past lives. Like one particular friend of mine, she talked about how she came across a picture and something told her that this was her in a past life. And she actually looked at this picture and a sort of ectoplasm had emerged from the picture and left a permanent stain on that picture. And this particular picture is a popular picture that is circulating in the indigenous community. I'm not going to give the details of that because it's personal to that person and I don't want to tell that person's business. Okay. And, you know, there's another case of a child by the name of Barbara Carlin, who was born in 1954. Okay, this is another incident. And this child was born in Sweden. Okay, and I think this child was, how old was she? She was a toddler. Okay, and by the time she was able to talk, yeah, actually, yes, like talking age when the child first begins to talk. Okay, she had told her family of men kicking her door down and taking her away. Okay, and she mentioned the name Anne Frank. Okay, now at this particular time, Anne Frank was not a popular person until 10 years after that time. And the parents didn't recognize the name. They were like, well, who is that? And so the child, and those who don't know who Anne Frank was, Anne Frank, she was, we know she's the one who was put into the concentration camps, of Jewish persuasion, who was taken to a concentration camp in 1945. Okay. And so the parents didn't recognize the name because it wasn't a popular name then. Okay. And when this particular child here turned 10 years old, her family took her to Amsterdam. And when they got there, she led her parents without any direction to, she identified a spot where Anne Frank had lived. Okay. And she had recognized photos on the wall. Okay. And even talked about how she said, well, the stairs are different now than they were before. Okay. And they even verified, her story was even verified when they studied the history of the construction of the home. And sure enough, the steps were different, arranged differently before, during the time of Anne Frank. Okay. So, I'm not saying these things to spook anyone out. I know a lot of you are Judeo Christian, you know, but you have to open your mind and become a little more broad in your outlook on life. Okay, not everything is just explained in a book. Okay, and not only that, but a lot of times things are explained in your holy book. You just have the wrong interpretation, or you have been indoctrinated to only see it through a certain lens. Okay. And a lot of times it's interpreted in a certain way to make you think that it's not saying this or that. Okay. So, anyway, another story is that of a 4-year-old by the name of Shanti Devi in India. Okay. And she told her mom that she was a mom before. Okay. And that she died not being able to spend time with her child because she died right after the baby was born. And she even said what her husband's name was. Okay, mind you, this is a 4-year-old child. So the mother didn't really take her seriously. She just shrugged it off as, this is just a little child telling a story. Okay. And however, throughout the years, the child kept repeating this story. Okay. And she said the husband's name was Kettermak. Okay. And even said where the husband was. Okay. So the mother went to that place, to Mathura, to find out if there was such a person there. And sure enough, the mother found him. Okay. And the guy said that, well, he just recently lost his wife. Recently, right before their child was born. Okay. Right before him and his wife's child was born. And as soon as Shanti, the little girl who was telling this story, as soon as she saw the husband, we're talking about a 4-year-old now, she immediately recognized him. Okay. And they both cried and they both spoke and talked about stories. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you who are dropping off because you don't want to believe what I'm saying. And I don't care if you don't believe what I'm saying. Okay. But these are things you can look up. You can look this stuff up yourself. Okay. So don't believe what I'm saying, look it up for yourself, you know. So a lot of times when we have reoccurring dreams, these can be indications of reincarnation. A lot of times phobias that people have, can be related to the way that you died in a past life. Okay. Also, unexplained pains that you may have in your body. When you go to the doctor and the doctor tries to figure out what's wrong with you, and you can't, and the doctor can't explain what's wrong, and they'd be like, oh well, I don't know. It says here that everything is okay, and nobody can figure out where the pain is coming from. That can also be a sign of things that happened in a particular past life, you know. And like I said, the scientists are studying this particular phenomenon very carefully. Okay. So let's just say if reincarnation is true, okay, I haven't died and come back. You haven't died and come back. So we don't know what goes on after passing away. Okay. But what I will say is that if it's true, you need to be careful of how you treat people. Some of you people out there are evil as hell and nothing has caught up with you. And you think you've gotten away with things, but you're just playing yourself. Okay? Be careful of owing people debt, owing people money. Okay, you go around taking people's money, borrowing money from people and never paying them back. Okay, you may just in the next lifetime you may be a pauper or a derelict on the street, panhandling for money. That's how these things work. Okay, some of you out there are fathers who have children out there that you're not taking care of. Okay, be careful with that because it can come back to bite you in your behind. Okay, some of you have outside children that you know you have. Okay, and you're not trying to be a part of their lives. Okay, be careful with that. You may come back as an orphan. You know, some of you have children that, some of you out there have children that you've never given a dime to or have attempted to take care of. Okay, you may come back in the next lifetime having no parents or somebody that is sexually or physically abusing you. Okay, some of you may have killed people. Okay, or beat up people or bullied people. You know, when you were coming up or whatever. And the same thing can happen to you in a future life. Okay, a lot of people tell me all the time, well, life isn't fair. You know, why is it that some people have it good and others, have it bad? Why am I having such a hard time in life? Well, then some people say, oh, there is no God or there is no great spirit or whatever, because all these terrible things happened to me and blah, blah, blah. Well, hey, you could have been an evil bastard in a past life. Okay. Some people say, oh, why does God allow the innocent people to die horribly in burning buildings and hurricanes and things like that? Well, what did you do in a past life? Okay. You may have done the same thing. You may have killed a lot of people. You may have been a dictator. You may have been someone who burnt up someone else in a past life, or anything like that. Those things come back to haunt you, and you think that you're in this previous life innocent. Okay, some of you out there enjoy trying to take other men's wives and things of that nature. Be careful with that. You may come back to be afflicted and or handicapped or something. You may not even be able to have a wife. Okay, these things can happen. And I'm not talking spookism. Again, I showed you the science on this stuff. Okay, you have in the universe what they call parallel universes. Okay, you have the phenomenon of parallel universes, and they're studying, quantum physics is studying all of these things. Okay, go watch the movie The AO. Okay, it's on Amazon Prime. Okay, watch that movie. Okay, even though it's a movie, there's a lot of science in it. And it talks about you know parallel universes. Okay, how scientists are studying this stuff. All right, you got phenomenons such as the Bermuda Triangle. Okay, right here off of right where Bermuda is. Okay, right in that area of off of Florida and Cuba, Puerto Rico, and that whole area there. Okay, planes disappear all the time. Disappear, vanish off the face of the earth. Okay, very few people. There are some cases of people who have lived to tell the tale, but very few. Okay, and these are real cases. Okay, where they've gone through the Bermuda Triangle and their compasses start going haywire. okay, and they lose communication with the base, okay, and time and space start to blur and become an illusion, okay, because that's what it is anyway, okay, and the people who come out of that, they talk about it being like this big storm cloud of thunder and darkness and lightning, okay, but it's like a time warp, okay, this is real. Then they have also on the Pacific coast, they have the Devil's Triangle, okay, and these are real phenomenons where these things, ships, okay, sail boats and planes disappear all the time, okay. So anyway, I've talked long enough, and I'm not going to keep you any longer. This is Spiritual Sun Days, okay, where we talk about spiritual matters, metaphysical matters, okay, which is definitely a part of the indigenous culture, okay. So every Sun Day, we deal with sacred matters, okay, sacred Sun Day matters. For those who just joined in, I broke down how the days, the 7 days, are named after the planets. Okay, so we get into high science on sacred sun days. We get into the ancient mysteries. Okay, we get into the mound builder science. Okay, and the mysteries. Okay, so on that note, I will leave you saying do da da, gah e. Also, those who didn't, hit the thumbs up. Okay? So until the next time, and if you want to leave a donation, feel free. So on that note, we have someone who just joined in and left let me acknowledge who's in the chat. Queen of Forces Healing Ministries, greetings. Would you please repeat the name of the books you mentioned earlier? Okay, yeah. Give me 1 second. I will put it in the chat. Let me type that in. Give me 1 second. I'll type that in the chat for you. The first book was Ghosts, Ghosts, Spirits, and the Afterlife in Native American Folklore and Religion by Gary R. Varner. That's the first book. Okay, Queen says, thank you. I've been mobile and couldn't jot them down. Okay. And the other book, I'll give you the other book as well. Type that in. Other book is Reincarnation and Biology by Ian Stevenson. Okay, that's the other book. And like I said, they're taking this subject very seriously. It's only our folk, who believe it's just mumbo jumbo. And these are, again, those are not new agers. These are actual, like, serious scientists who did those studies. And Eon Stevenson, he was very serious and went around and got case studies from 2,500 different children, and they screened them very carefully. Anyway, so on that note, I will sign off. And till the next time, do the dog, the huh, eh.